I hope we're actually live. I never really know. We've had so many problems lately. I think we are live. I'm pretty sure. Regardless, I have a surprise for you guys today, and a surprise for Kale, and I'm really excited about it.
Oh, I don't
Those
know.
of
I
you,
don't know if I like surprises anymore.
those of you who watch the train station should be excited because it's a new thing, and maybe I can make it available to lots of different people. I don't know. I'm really excited about this. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we're going to show you guys today. If you're watching this in the replay, make sure you you check it out. Wait till the end because we have some like really exciting things we want to talk to you about. If you have a puppy right now, then we've got a feeding routine that is perfect for you guys, and it's going to help you sort of increase your puppy's learning abilities. It's going to increase their work drive. It's going to be really, really cool. So I want you guys to hang on tight for that. But this it's hard. See, I just got off a night shift yesterday, and I've been a little foggy all day, so I'm trying to bring it back
and I
together.
have no idea what he's talking about because normally I would help him out here, but I'm listening like you guys are. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, so I'm trying to like let's focus us in and see if we can get up and running. I'm going to double check and make sure the stream is in fact live.
Yep, you are. Good evening.
Oh, good. Oh, the Doberman guy. It's nice to see you. So I wanted to mention this. I was hoping to see you again, Doberman guy, because I checked out your channel. And if any of our train station viewers like Dobermans, if you like big dogs, you need to check out the Doberman guy's channel. It's really good. And I saw your recent live stream, or you just did a short live, I think. I think that's a great idea for you. It was fun to listen to and fun to watch. Mm-hmm. But thanks for joining us, the Doberman guy. We often see you in the comments. So it's nice to have you back. Welcome aboard to the train station. It's nice to have you guys here. Actually, I should probably run the train station trailer. Mm-hmm. Let's just bring that up here. Where did it go? Let's see if I can find it. See, this is what happens because I'm so tired. I can't even send you guys to the train station. Okay, trying to bring things back. Just a few minutes left in the pre-show. Kale, there's a couple things that we were talking about this week that you are going to do or that you have done and you wanted to mention.
Yeah, it's been a really busy week. I actually, as we were sitting down to do the live stream, I felt like it was like we just did the live stream the other day. Like this week has gone really, really fast. But anyways, this week has been really busy for me because I have some events in the work and sort of our agility training side of things. So I designed this like cool event called the Big Bucks Biathlon, and I did a lot of them last year, and I didn't really do many this year just because life's been a little bit busy. But I've had so many people asking. So I'm going to be announcing our next Big Bucks competition, and Ken usually live streams it. So just in a nutshell, it's
you can check it out on the channel. For sure.
It's like a high level agility competition where people can win money, hence the Big Bucks Biathlon. So there's 2 rounds, and it's for people that are looking to be a little bit more competitive, or they're preparing for like a national event or a world level event or whatever. So the dogs are like pretty fantastic. I designed some really fun courses, really hard courses, and it's just such a fun event.
Yeah, it's really fun.
I really miss it.
I love the attitude at the Big Bucks Biathlon.
Yeah,
where everybody's like really excited to see.
But so
nice
supportive and like
totally.
really. Like everybody's giving it their all. Like it's really fun to watch.
Yeah,
so that's one thing. And then also Coach Jamie and I are putting together another agility camp for the fall, which we're going to be announcing in a couple days. And then Ken and I are organizing a summer barbecue for our staff, which we're going to be hosting on Sunday. And we're doing it at a super cool place. We could absolutely do it at our own facility, but we thought, we're going to do something different this year.
Yeah, and you guys can actually check out this facility on our channel. Cool. We have a video, and it's something like an amusement park for dogs, because that's exactly what this is.
It's called the Canine Fun Zone.
The Canine Fun Zone, and it's relatively local to us, and it is amazing. It's got dock diving, a ball pit, like a scenting.
Off-leash field.
Off-leash field, yeah, a scenting area.
Barn hunt.
A barn hunt, yeah. Tons of really cool
Yeah.
stuff. So we're excited to go there with a bunch of our instructors from McCann Professional Dog Trainers.
Yeah,
And
everybody's dogs. We're gonna see if they'll try dock diving
Yeah,
and have a
yeah.
barbecue and
For sure.
hang out and not work and be social.
Yeah.
And we have such a great group of people. It's gonna be
yeah,
so much
it's going to be
fun.
really fun. So if you're just jumping on the stream, we are talking about your puppy feeding
You
routine
do need
today.
to move to Canada. It's
Yeah,
awesome here.
The Doberman guy, mentioned I need to move to Canada. Yeah, it's pretty great. And this facility is really cool. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what else is really neat is I know the owner there does a lot of like charity events, which I think is
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
awesome. Does
Yeah.
for like a lab rescue and a few others. So definitely, if you are a Canadian or if you're in Ontario, definitely check the place out.
It's in like
really-
Caledonia.
yeah, it's really, really neat.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Canine Fun Zone. And maybe in the replay, I'll link it in the description below so you can check it
Yeah,
out.
we did a cool vlog when we went there one time.
Yeah, and if you're watching this in the replay, I will post a card up here somewhere so that you can see it as well.
I'm just answering Melissa
We just tell
about
her.
this. Oh,
Yeah, it's
yes,
on-
it is on Highway 6.
Yeah. So today I have a surprise for you. I have a surprise for Kale. I know I'm really excited about it. And
I don't know about
I've been building up to it since we started streaming. We had a little bit of trouble getting things off the ground, and now we're going again.
Can I eat it?
You can't eat it. Well, I mean, yes, you could, but it would probably make you feel unwell. But I think maybe I'll do it in a minute. I'll reveal this big surprise in a minute. And here's a hint.
It could be anything, guys.
I'm going to need this little guy right here to make the big reveal. But I am excited to show this off. So,
Why are you looking at
so
my
let's
cup
talk.
like that?
Let's talk about a couple things that that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, we are going to be talking about the value of food when it comes to puppy training and raising young dogs, and how you can utilize something that's like food that dogs and puppies especially want and need, and how we can use that to our advantage to do a whole bunch of things to strengthen your training, your relationship, all kinds of stuff. So we're going to give you a bunch of hot tips and suggestions on how to take the most advantage of your feeding time and your routine of feeding, and sort of the best way to do it for your puppy to get the best results.
For sure. So we have reached the end the end of the pre-show. Now, Kale, when you came down here, I noticed that I often will come down and set up the live stream setup and get all the things, lights going, and get all the stream set in, all those things. And I noticed you paused and hesitated when you looked at me for a moment. And I think you may have noticed part of the surprise. I can see her looking at it right now.
Oh my God, what did you
So
do?
I've got something that it was specifically for you at home, our train station
Do you
viewers.
see how aware I am of you now?
Yes, I know. It's very clear that you're paying close attention to me. But I think now is the perfect time to unveil it.
Oh my
And
God.
I hope I've tucked my undershirt in. But it's time, guys. All aboard the training train. I'm Ken Steep. This is Kale McCann.
That's Funky Monkey.
Welcome back to McCann Dogs.
Funky. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Shh.
So let me know in the comments if you like the shirt, because I had this
Oh
specially
my
made.
gosh.
All aboard the training train.
That is.
Yeah,
That
Kale
is
had
a
no idea.
That is the shirt, hon.
Got McCann Dogs on the
Oh
back.
my.
It's perfect. It's perfect
That
for
is so
the
funny.
show.
And our logo has a little backwards hat on
Yeah,
it.
yeah. The Heart Dog has a little backwards hat on him. So I wanted to welcome you guys to the training train. That's why I needed to wear my blue shirt. We were debating whether we should wear blue, or we also have some black uniform shirts. And I needed to wear my blue shirt
That
so I
is-
could do the big reveal for you
That
guys.
is really funny.
So
I actually was like, I didn't know that he owned like an undershirt that was like
Oh, I didn't.
royal blue. Like,
I didn't
you threw me for a loop.
until
and I
about
did,
a day ago.
I did give it a good look at you. Did when I
Yeah.
came downstairs,
it
didn't
was
I?
very clear.
Oh, that is so funny.
So let's get right into things. Let's get right into the training state or the train station. So when we bring a new puppy home, as Kale mentioned, there's a lot that you can do to really expedite some of that learning, and it all starts in. I should probably preface this. So our last couple of puppies have been puppies that we whelped. You know, they
Yep.
came from a litter of one of our dogs, or
From my parents' house or our house or
yeah. So, I see Philip Boyd. I just need to mention this. I think you've won her over. You're right. She was all against the train until I got this awesome
Except
shirt.
I told them that I wanted a T-shirt with like our dogs on it, like
Yeah.
the train station bumper. That
This
he
was the
made.
practice shirt. And you know what? I can actually get
This
you guys
is
a
pretty
link.
awesome, though.
Let me know if you want a link, because you can actually order specifically this shirt.
Oh my
I'm going to
God.
come up with better ones, so I would wait. But getting back to training in the train station, because we're on the training train.
Oh my god. Okay. You're crazy.
It's fun. We have spent a lot of time with our puppies, you know, from the time that they were born up until 8 weeks. But in the past, when we'd bring a puppy home at something like 8 weeks or around that age,
9 weeks.
yeah, 9 weeks, there have been some things that we'll do with their food, and I'll let Kale maybe talk about it a little bit, that are great relationship builders. Actually, I'll let you just talk about so we hand feed our puppies. When we first bring our puppies home, we'll hand feed them, and it may sound like an unusual tactic, but talk about some of the benefits of hand feeding your puppy.
Yeah, we really, and we might not hand feed every single meal, but we hand feed a lot of meals initially with our puppies. And what, maybe you don't know what hand feeding is. So basically, instead of putting, the food down in a bowl and putting it down in the kitchen or wherever it might be, and just let the dog have at it, we utilize the fact that the dog likes their breakfast or their lunch or their dinner or however many times you're feeding a day. And we utilize that to teach the puppy that food comes from us. And it's a great way to build attention. It's a great way to build relationships. So essentially, I'll take the food out of the bowl, put it in my hand, and then I'll give the puppy little bits at a time. And initially, when they're just baby puppies, I might just let them simply just eat the food out of my hand. And then, even after a couple days of having a new puppy home, when the food's in my hand, I'll start to already do some training with them. So I might have them follow the food and then let them have it. I might lure them into a sit or a down and then let them have a bit of the food. So the puppy's just starting to sort of work for the food, but I'm making it really fun and really positive. And it's sort of the best time to get attention from your dog because they're already hungry. And again, it's a great way to associate relationship. And actually, we still have a bit of a trick with hand feeding. It's not quite hand feeding. So before Ken and I got together, I already had a dog named Funky Monkey, and we have 7 dogs together. And Fun is my oldest, and she's one of those dogs that's like, she's my dog. Like all of our dogs are our dogs. Yes. For sure.
Yeah.
But Funky is definitely my dog. So if Ken and I are feeding the dogs together, or if Ken's feeding the dogs on his own, even if we're feeding them together, because sometimes it takes 2 of us, Ken always feeds Funky instead of me. Again, it's just that, like, hey, Funky, like, Ken brings the food. He's, he's fun. And, she listens to him and stuff, but she just definitely, and she loves food. So it helps sort of build their bond, especially with me being there at the same time. So this is something that we recommend for, everybody in the family to do. It's also really a good way to associate the kids and the dogs together. Yeah. So you could, hand your kid a little bit of the food and have them outstretch their hand and let the puppy eat it. And, it's such an easy thing to do, but it has big rewards.
For sure. And the Doberman guy hit the nail on the head. It's good to build the bond. It's a really helpful thing for developing that relationship. Mm-hmm. And we'll also do things with those little puppies, like have their crate in our bedroom overnight. Another great way to build a bond. So there's all sorts of these little tricks.
Separate them from other dogs.
For sure. So let's and I know I sort of took us off topic. Let's try to stay on topic, but I tried. We talk a little bit about using the crate with a puppy.
Yeah.
Talk about how you can build value for the crate using your puppy's food.
Yeah. So we introduce a crate to the puppy the moment they come home or the day they come home. It's not something that we wait on. Some people will just leave the door open and let the dog go in and out in their own on their own terms. But we jump the gun right away by trying to associate the crate with something good. And again, using the food and the breakfast and the dinner time as a way to make that association is just one of the easiest ways to do it. Still with a lot of our dogs, our youngest now is just under, she's about 1.5 years old. But a lot of the dogs still eat their food in their crate. And their crate doors often not even closed. They hear the kibble hit the bowl and boom, they're all in their crates,
Yeah.
happily wagging their tails, waiting to get the food in. And it's something that our dogs will start to offer, even as a baby puppy, 9-10 weeks old. They'll actually go in willingly, turn around and wait for us to put the bowl in, just because they're used to that association. So it's a great way to build value for the crate itself. I can show it too if you want.
Yeah, I think we should show it in just a second. But I wanted to mention before you did that, we do have questions on some of our crate training videos, some of our potty training videos about when's the right time to stop using the crate with your dog or your puppy. And I think it really kills her conversation there goes to show you, like, we think your dog should always be comfortable in their crate. There are so many reasons to use a crate, whether it's transportation or whatever. I mean, there's a million reasons why
If they have to go to the vet
safe.
overnight, if
For
they have to go to a boarding kennel.
Yeah, that's a really important one if they go to the vet overnight, because they're already stressed. So you want to keep them in the most comfortable situation possible. So we continue using our dogs' crates throughout their life. We might make a couple of exceptions as dogs get really, really old and really stiff. We might have them out of their crate. But if they're being transported, they're definitely going in a crate. We want to keep them safe. So continue, teach your dog to love their crate, and Kale can show us a really good way to jumpstart that.
I just want to embellish on what you said, because I don't want people to interpret it the wrong way. So our dogs certainly are not crated all of the time, but we still utilize the crate when we want to. Some of our older dogs, we actually, this whole bottom part of our house, you guys see like this fancy little studio right here, but to our right we have like an entire dog room that's like pretty decked out for the dogs, and there's crates there, and we have a lot of our dogs, we just leave the crate door open, and we have dog beds everywhere and whatnot. And most often, especially Rad, our one border collie, he's never on a bed out there. He's always in his crate upside down, door open.
Yeah.
So we don't want to take that place away from them, especially with a multiple dog home. It's their place to kind of escape and be comfortable, but of course they're trained enough that they don't need to be crated.
Yeah, I think that is an important point, and I hope no one sort of would think that we keep our dogs in their crates all the time, but we definitely take advantage of it. I want to answer a couple of these. Yeah, go ahead and answer. Philip Boyd, a new subscriber to the channel.
Hello, Philip. So Philip says, does hand feeding help with teaching the puppy to put its teeth on you? Could it be confusing on that point?
I'm going to stop you right there. Philip, wait till Monday. We've got a video coming out on Monday that will really show you how to teach your puppy to differentiate between those two things. However,
I am going to show something about this as well. So hand feeding does not encourage dogs to put their teeth on you, no. But we are going to address a little bit of nipping on Monday. But I also later in this live stream, I'm going to be showing you a little hand feeding exercise that you can actually start to utilize to teach your dog about being more gentle with their teeth. So I'll do that in a second as well.
Why don't we jump into that now, and then we can come back.
Okay, then I can do the crate thing too.
We're going to head over to the training cam in the train station. So I've got to get the lights turned up. The Doberman guy mentions I have a female with 5 years. A female with 5 years that goes to her crate as soon as I pick up her food ball. She since she was at 4 months. So yeah, I could. That's like our dogs as well. As soon as we start the process of getting the food ready, the dogs head to their crates, and everyone stands there excitedly waiting, because we've created a routine of them understanding that we'll feed them in their crate. I bet
you any money that if I put this food in the bowl and I look at her, she'll probably go in there.
Oh yeah, yes, it's likely. Okay, I'm gonna take us over to camera 2. Oops. Yeah, so you can see Funky offered to go in her kennel.
You hungry?
Now she's wondering where it is. Yeah, there she goes.
Yay, good girl. Yes, that's a good girl. So we did a live stream actually not too long ago about how to actually play this game and teach the dog this exercise, that when they see some food that they're to offer to go in their crate. But I do want to show you now just that exercise about taking food gently. And unfortunately, there was a little bit of water in the bottom of this bowl, and now the kibble is all stuck to it. So I'm just going to shut this so that she stops offering to go in. Am I okay where I am, hon?
I think so, yeah.
So one of the things that you can start to do to teach your puppy, so hand feeding, I might, again, put a little bit of kibble in my hand and reward her. And again, this is going to seem like a silly thing to say. But what a lot of people don't understand is that you really should teach the dog that the food is coming from you. And a lot of people, when they're doing this, will, you know, do things like this. And they'll reward the dog for sort of looking in any direction. So I'm using this to teach Funky, you know, attention and bond with me. So when I feed her, I'm going to feed her, you know, facing in my direction. So that's a good thing to think about as well. I'll also use, you know, the food time. So, you know, the rest of, you know, the food might be in here, but I have a little handful. And I might use a bit of food when they're a baby puppy to teach them their name. So I might, you know, call her name, Funky, girl, Funky. Girly, Funky, good, Funky, good girl. So I'm just associating her name, or I could use the yes word, and then I could feed her right after. So these are all things that we do with our puppies on a regular basis when we're hand feeding or when we're, you know, doing breakfast or dinner time. But get to that next point about that question about taking food gently. So what we would do is an exercise, and Funky's probably going to be pretty good at this, although she's probably one of our most food motivated dogs, so she can be a little bit overexcited sometimes. Oh, I should have used Skippy actually for this.
Do you want to go get her?
No,
No.
it's okay. So what I'm going to do is I have a bunch of food in my hand, and I'm going to close it in a fist to begin, and I'm just going to put it in front of her nose. And if she does behaviors that are respectful and gentle, I'm going to say yes and then let her have some of the food in my hand. If I offer the food and she's rammy or she's nipping at me or she's scratching up my hand and she's being a bit rude, then I'm going to close my hand in a tight fist so she can't get it. I'm going to remove my hand away, and then I'm going to offer it once again and see if she can, you know, understand to try some different behaviors other than those ones. So I'm going to just take the treats and I'm going to cover it with my thumb so she can't snatch it. Yes, good girl. So she just sniffed my hand, so I let her have the food. Yes, good girl. Yes, good. And again, if I didn't like it, I would close my hand in a fist, pull it away. Yes, good girl. Yes, excellent, good girl. So she's learning to be, you know, gentle with my hands. So this is actually doing the opposite. Rather than teaching her to be nippy with my hands, I'm actually teaching her that nipping doesn't get food. You know, gentle behavior and respectful behaviors earn food from there. That's such a good girl.
Yeah, that was a really good example. I wanted to take a second to mention right now, if you have questions, whether you're on our Facebook live stream or our YouTube live stream, definitely leave those in the chat, and we will answer them in just a couple of minutes.
Should I do the other thing later? Let's just put it up.
Sure, yeah, if you'd like to, yeah. Good, so that was a pretty good example, and I think we talk. You know, let's stick with the emotional control stuff.
Okay.
Do you want to do the food bowl one where you place it down? Okay. So we some of these exercises are really good for teaching your dog a little bit of emotional control, and they're we'll talk a little bit about why that's important and the benefit that will have on your dog or your puppy as they get a little bit older.
So another thing that we like to do is, again, teach the dog some emotional control, and not just to, you know, jump and, you know, shove their head in the bowl. Be, you know, be a little bit more respectful. Come here so that they can see you. Wait. Now, you certainly can eventually down the road use a verbal command like stay or wait for this. But when you have a baby puppy, you want to be careful that you're not giving them a bunch of commands that they have no idea what it means. So this is actually just a way for them to problem solve themselves and figure it out. So I've asked Funky to sit, but I don't really care whether she's sitting, so I'm just going to sort of let her be. And what I'm going to do is throw a couple treats in the bowl, and I'm going to put the bowl down on the ground. And if she just goes towards the bowl, I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to take it away, which is going to teach her that she's got to wait for me to give her permission. And again, I don't need to say anything to her to this. I just need to get her to problem solve. So I'm going to put a couple cookies in. Oh, you're so smart. Good girl. Yes, okay, you can have it. Good girl. So she has played this game since a baby puppy, so I'm glad that she didn't just blow it there. Okay, I'm going to try it again. Yeah, it's a good girl. So I'm going to throw a couple in. Oops. Good girl. So she went to go for it, and I just pulled it away. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, get it. Yeah. Good girl. Can you try a little harder? Good girl. You can actually do more advanced versions. This is the version that Ken plays with her. So he puts her food bowl down. Yes, get it. Good girl. So So I waited for her to look away from the food and look at me, and then I let her have the food from there. So that's obviously a much more advanced version. I wouldn't do that with a baby puppy initially, but you certainly can practice the old pick the bowl up, put the bowl down type of thing, which is a great way to sort of teach, good girl, Monk, teach a little bit of self-control.
Yeah, really, really good. And I really like that exercise. I like that the exercise of having the dog offer to look at you, and before they're released, it's nice because they learn that they need to check in with you before they get something of value. And again, as we try to, Funky is Kale's dog through and through. Hi, buddy. But as we try to build value on her listening to me and her paying attention to me. That's a great exercise, and it's something that we often do. Now, I saw a couple interesting questions come in the chat, and I'd like to answer them. I see Tony Laughing 12, and we get this question sometimes with Head Start puppies.
Yeah.
So Tony asks,
We have a couple tricks for that.
yeah, how can you teach your dog to eat slow or more slowly?
Here.
So there's a couple things that we do. Now, probably the most simple is getting something like a slow eat bowl from your local pet store. It's it's got either a bunch of ridges. You can just put her away if you want, or like some little pegs in it that the dog has to eat around to get the kibble. Those are really, really helpful. Another thing you can do is put a couple of, this is as long as your dog isn't totally nuts about tennis balls, but you can put a couple of tennis balls in a food bowl that sort of take up the room, and especially as they're a puppy, they're so little. Or a Kong, yeah. Speaking of a Kong, you can...
I have another one that's even more simple. So, and this is how we feed our dogs. And I think that because this is so normal for us that, people don't know about it. So when our dogs get food or kibble, whatever we happen to be feeding at the time, we put water on their food. So they always get whatever they're eating plus a little bit of water, and that in itself will slow a lot of dogs down as well. Some dogs not so much, but for a lot of the time, it's also a great way to get more water in them. But we always put water in our dog's food.
Yeah, Kale mentioned the Kong, using the Kong to put it in there and create some bulk so they have to eat around it. But you can actually feed your dog their dinner or their breakfast or whatever in the Kong. That will absolutely slow them down. A lot of people only think of something like the Kong as like a toy or a treat, but there's all kinds of great things that you can use your Kong for. So take advantage of that. You might stuff your puppy's kibble in there with a little bit of something that's a little more sticky. It's depending on what you feed your dog. If you're feeding your dog something like raw, it's really simple to put that in the Kong. Just make sure that if they don't finish it, that you do clean the Kong, and your Kongs can, I'm pretty sure the Kongs can go inside the dishwasher.
I tried a product like this as well. So basically you stick it to their bowl and then the dog has to eat around it.
Yeah, these things are pretty neat. You might need to put that a little closer. It's just got a little suction cup on it, but
it's
again,
a good idea. But my dog's it just popped off, so I don't use it. It sits in a cupboard.
Yeah, we have some pretty.
But the idea is good.
Yeah, we have some pretty rambunctious dogs when it comes to feeding.
We use slow eat bowls for those dogs.
So we use slow eat bowls for those dogs that are really like crazy about their food. And Deegan is a great example of that. Being a lab, anyone out there who's a lab owner will know. I saw another question come in. Oh, any other tips for dogs to eat slow? For dogs to eat for eating slow?
I think those are all the ones I would say.
So the reason I noticed the Doberman guy mentioned some people say it's cruel. So Philip Boyd asks, how do you judge if the dog's eating too fast? Is it the excitement level while eating, or is it a health issue, example, indigestion? And the danger of eating too quickly is dogs can actually flip their stomach.
Gastric torsion, it's called.
Yeah. So you just sort of...
That's one of the ways that can happen.
Yeah, for sure. You might also see dogs who throw up after they've eaten so fast, so fast, or they'll choke. Yeah. So those are the dogs that you want to touch the brakes on a little bit as you try one of these little tactics for feeding them.
The other thing that sometimes we'll do is feed the dog, like Funky, for example, gets like just under 3/4 of a cup twice a day, but we give her food in a pretty big bowl. So when we put it in the bowls, the food's like all flat instead of raised, so she can't like grab like huge hunks of it at a time.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to do as well. It's also just like humans eating slower. It's healthier for dogs to eat slower if you can.
Yeah, for sure. I want to mention what
was the cruel thing you said?
The Doberman guy was just mentioning some people think it's cruel to slow the dog down from eating too fast. But he loves how an educated and but I love to have educated and controlled dogs. It's definitely not cruel. And as the
think he's referring to that, but
the dope, well, maybe not.
I think he's talking about the exercise.
Oh,
that
as the Doberman guy mentions, eating slower is important for dogs that are at higher risk for suffering of bloat, such as Dobermans and Great Danes, and certainly some breeds are more susceptible to that kind of thing. The other thing is exercising your dog. So you have to.
This is a big one for me. People do not know. We need to educate you right now, so you know. So you should never feed your dog and then take them outside and run them, or you should never run your dog and then bring them inside and feed them. So if we exercise our dogs and they're panting and they've had like a good run, we will bring them, inside, and we will let everybody completely cool. No one's panting. Everybody's back to normal before we feed them. Being in the dog world and being exposed to a lot of people with active dogs, I know way too many dogs that have died from flip stomachs than I should.
Yeah.
And it's all been because of people, doing things too active, either before, right after, or before feeding their dog, and it's super dangerous. So
really high mortality
rate.
Right?
You know that about that.
Yeah, be really, really careful. I mean, with all the sports dogs that we, interact with and engage with, we sort of have to plan our feeding. When we're going to run agility, or if I'm going to go herding sheep or doing whatever, some activity, even if it's going for like a long walk with the dogs where they might be off leash running, we make sure that we haven't just fed them, just so that we don't encounter something like that. The other thing we'll do is after we come in from a long hike or walk or something, we'll let them cool down in their crates or cool down in their little dog area and relax. And once they stop panting and once they look a little bit more settled, then we're more comfortable to feed them. But pay close attention to that. You can really put your dog in a dangerous situation, feeding them too soon before activity or too soon after.
Yeah, and actually we try not to put them in their crates right after we run them either.
Right.
We try to let them walk out and cool down first. You just reminded me of something. The other thing that we like to do is terms of like puppies and feeding, or even dogs and feeding. It doesn't even need to be puppies, but it's especially good if you start all these things when dogs are puppies. Is when you're using food for training, especially, and then you're giving them their normal meals. On top of that, some dogs can get really heavy really fast. So one of the tips that we will often do is when we feed our dogs, we will give them half of their meal at the actual breakfast time, and then we'll take their other half and we'll put it in a little Ziploc bag, and then we might put some additional tasty treats in there, and then we'll use that for the rest of the day, or until dinner time, for training the dog. So we might reward certain exercises, we might do some tricks training, we might reward the dog for coming in on a recall, or whatever it might be, and that sort of controls the amount of food that the dog has. And also too, dogs typically, some dogs will eat until they until they're blimps. There's other dogs, we have a toy poodle, and she loves food, but her little belly is so small. So, if I did a lot of training with her at the end of a half-hour training session or an hour training session or whatever class, she would be so full she literally didn't want food anymore. So I found for her, training her or practicing when she was hungry, I got a lot better focus from her, and again, she wasn't being turned off of the food because she just had too much.
Yeah, it can be tough on them. The Doberman guy mentions about the cruel thing. I was talking about having the dog wait for a command to start eating. Some people say it's cruel. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
It's a great way to establish a little bit of leadership, a little bit of control. It's a really, non-invasive way of doing something like that. And it's so easy. And to be honest, I think our dogs like it. Dogs like to do things, for you. They like having a job. And, it almost turns into like a bit of a game for them. And then they don't perceive it as cruel at all.
No, for sure. I noticed Alexa Green. Hello, I got a dog 5 days ago, and I know Alexa was on the channel asking some really great questions about dog training. And I love seeing people who are excited about training their dog. And now I believe Philip, communicating with in the comments of one of our puppy videos in the last few days, and I'm pretty sure he was mentioning that he's thinking about getting a puppy in like a year. Nice. And he's starting his education now.
Wow.
He's
Good
looking.
For you.
Yeah,
That's
really,
great.
really smart. He's looking into puppy videos and puppy training. And
are you Canadian or American?
I think he might be from the UK.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
I have some friends in the UK.
Yeah. But I love that idea. I love the fact that people are really working extra hard to make sure that they're prepared for puppies. And it's things like this. These little tips and tricks and skills that you learn that make your puppy training experience and the experience for your puppy way better. You know, a lot more fun, a lot more engaging. So we're happy. Oh, he's American, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, thanks for watching, Philip, and I'm really excited that you're going to be so well prepared when you bring your puppy home. I'd love to know in the chat what kind of puppy you're thinking about getting at this point. Now, it's at this point I want to mention to drop your questions in the chat if you have any questions about puppies or puppy training, especially when it comes to food. Now, I think we've given some really great examples of ways that you can use that puppy feeding routine in the morning to really speed up your training and to develop that relationship and have a puppy who wants to work. And we often talk about using a high value reward for things that you want, you know, a little extra effort from. And sometimes, you know, we train over 500 dogs every single week in our training facility, and some of those 500 dogs are puppy owners and puppies from our Head Start for Puppies class. And the question Kale often gets in puppy class is what kinds of things you can feed your dog. So why don't you talk about that for a second?
Well, I know sometimes they'll come to class and they'll be struggling to get their puppy to pay attention because the puppy will be so distracted. And, you know, one of the very first things I always ask somebody when they're not getting good attention from your dog is, you know, what kind of treats do you have with you today? And most often than not, I look at it and it's something that's really boring, simply because, you know, they don't know any better. They don't know that it's important. And, you know, I will have something like, you know, hot dogs cut up or, you know, block cheese cut up or leftover chicken or whatever we had the night before that I've cut up into little pieces, and steak sometimes. And, you know, I have so many people say to me, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were allowed to give dogs that type of food. I thought it was either bad for them or another myth that's out there is if you give your dog people food, that it teaches the dogs to beg because they, you know, figure if you're going to give them the food then that they'll also give it to you from the table. And that's simply not true. Begging is a training behavior that needs to be addressed. That dogs will be interested in the food that you're eating, whether you give them human food or not. They can't make that parallel.
Right. And there's actually an exercise that we talk about on our YouTube channel here about teaching your dog to go lay on their bed. And that might be a great skill for you if you have a dog who
that does beg,
that does beg or sort of meanders around the table. It's a great skill for them to be able to go lie down and just relax and maybe enjoy something like a Kong or just, you know, chill out while you have dinner, because, you know, the onus is on them to not be bothersome and not be jumping at your legs and those kinds of things. And using those high value rewards is such a powerful training tool, you know, really upping the ante. So, you know, I don't want anyone to get confused that might create a bad situation.
Yeah. So you can use any of those examples that I gave you. Something that's really that's what we would consider as high value. That would, to our dogs, that they would feel that was more high value than, you know, say a treat that we would buy at the store. Sometimes we even make our own treats. We have a fabulous treat that we make. It's a really popular thing at our training school, tuna treats, and they're basically egg tuna flour. We can post the recipe. I think we have a video for it
I'll link in the description below.
But again, all healthy options that are just more exciting for the dog. And, you know, we wouldn't give these to our dogs all of the time. We would use it in situations where we wanted to make what we were working on extra special, or if we were in a really distracting environment and we wanted just a little bit, you know, more specific focus from the dog, then that might be something special that we would pull out at that time.
I want to say hello to Crenton 100. I know we see Crenton 100 on the stream.
North Carolina.
Hi, everyone from North Carolina. When's the last time you were in North Carolina?
Never. I go to South Carolina.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I've taught in Charleston, South Carolina many times, and I've been to Folly Beach, I think it's called, and I want to move there. Like,
yeah,
it is
really nice.
So nice there. I just had such a wonderful time every time I go.
So I want to circle back to some of the things we've talked about. If you have questions about your puppy feeding routine, if you have any questions about, you know, working with food with your puppy, now's the time to ask them. And if you haven't noticed, the All Aboard the Training Train shirt, this is the one for me. And All Aboard the Training Train here today on McCann Dogs Live. So let's talk about the things that we've mentioned. So hand feeding, the benefit, it's really, really powerful to get to start building that relationship with that young dog, especially when you first bring that puppy home. You know, hand feed them. Use some of the techniques that Kale talked about, where you focus on attention on you. You know, you're feeding the dog pointing and facing you rather than feeding them
or
to the side.
associate the food with their name. Start to
Yep.
do some basic luring exercises.
sure.
Luring is when you have the food on the puppy's nose and you sort of move it in a way to manipulate your puppy into certain positions, teaching them to do, some basic things.
Yeah, and you know what?
It's really fun for them.
For sure, and that's a good starting point for any dog. You know, that's
absolutely.
It's a great thing to do with any puppy because they learn to follow the food. It is the foundation of a lot of trick training.
Yeah.
You know, as you guide your puppy around.
And a lot of the obedience training that we train
For
too.
sure, yeah, and to have them excited about that is a really, really good thing. It's so why not do it 3 times a day if you're feeding your puppy, morning, afternoon, and night or whatever. It's a great opportunity to train with them. Handling while feeding, we didn't really talk about that, so let's circle back to that. So we often hear about people who have trouble handling their dog, and I know people are always think, I can handle my dog or take control of my dog, but
And then we watch them, they're just petting the dog.
Yeah.
That's different than handling the dog.
for sure. So we want to show you how to really build value in handling your dog. And who do you want to get out for that?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I can get slanties here.
We have a couple of videos on the channel about handling your dog. We actually did a whole live stream talking about handling your dog and the benefits of it, because it can be so helpful when your dog maybe has an injury or they go to the vet. All these things that you're going to do with your dog, you can do while you're with your puppy. And the earlier you start the training, the better off it will be. Do you want me to go to camera 2 here? Okay, I'm going to send you guys over to the train station. Camera.
Okay, Weenie.
Whoops. Hang on 1 second. I'll bring these guys over. Okay, there we go.
So usually when I'm doing a little bit of handling exercises, I have my bowl here of food. Slammy is really excited about that. Oh, thank you. He's offering me his paw right now. Hopefully that's going to give him a reward. And I'm going to feed him because he's cute. And he's offering things. So I'm going to take a little bit of the food. And when you're first starting this, so if he was a baby puppy doing this for the very first time, do you see what he's doing right now? Can you see on camera? Do you see his leg? Slam knows a funny trick where he looks like he's peeing like a boy. He is a boy, but okay, you don't need to do that right
Yeah, Slam's lifting his leg. He's not actually going pee, but that's a trick or that's something that Kale's been doing with him.
You're very cute. It's
It looks
because I
very
usually
funny.
put him in this position to teach him to. You're so smart, my weenie. So I'm going to have a bit of food on his nose, and while he's sort of sniffing and licking away at the treats, with my other hand, I would practice touching different body parts. And your vet will love you for doing this exercise with your dog. So while he's sniffing and eating, I might take a hold of his ear. Yes, good boy. And I'm going to yes to tell him that he's right, and then I can reward from there. I can try the other ear. I might pick up a paw. Yes, good boy. Pick up another paw. Yes, good boy. Pick up a back leg. Here, bud. Yes, good boy. Run my hand down his tail. Yes, good boy, buddy. Yes. I also like to practice moving him into different positions. So I might lure him into a sit, maybe a down, back up into a sit, a stand. Yes, good boy. You are obsessed with that lift trick. Good boy. Yay. Excellent. Good man. So just getting him used to working for the food and doing some fun things. I certainly could teach him things a little bit more, official than that. But this is just a great way to start the basics of this.
Maybe like checking his ears. You might want to go over those
Yeah,
and checking
absolutely.
his mouth.
I could flip his ears back. There's lots of reasons why handling would be really important. I can flip his ears back and take a look. But when you're doing it with a young dog that's maybe not used to this, rather than, making him, forcing him to do this and sort of pinning him down to check it out, I'm teaching him that, this is a positive situation. This is a positive thing. When I, take your ear and I look at it, or I might lift his lips. Yes, good boy. I might run my hand over his eyeball a little bit. Yes, good boy. And just reward him for that. Get him really comfortable so that, if I take him to the vet and they grab his head and they look in his ears and they look in his mouth and do all these things, you see how easy it is on your side. So we teach our dogs all kinds of things. So no matter what I do, I have a dog that, yes, good boy. that is really compliable and really comfortable with me manhandling him into position, and he's not afraid. He's not going to nip and bite at me. It just becomes a normal routine for the dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we get a lot of referrals from vets' offices to our training facility, and that's one of the things we often hear from those vets. When they contact us to get more of our literature, and we have some puppy kits that we send, or things for their puppy kits. They love the fact that the dogs are comfortable with handling, because so many dogs go into the vet's office and it's already an uncomfortable scenario. It can be an emotional time, or it is a stressful time because there's all sorts of new people and dogs and places. So having a dog who's really comfortable is really, really helpful, and it's good for your dog. Putting in this work is good for your dog, and you want to keep them in the right frame of mind. So I love that exercise, and I love the fact that you can start some of those handling exercises nice and early with your puppy. I'm going to mention this just because we're not. So Philip Boyd asks, if a puppy shows food guarding tendencies, do the techniques you're discussing tonight address this, or is there another approach that should be taken? So we're not really talking specifically about, resource guarding.
There's other things that we would do.
Yeah, there's some other things that we would do. I don't think this is really the stream for that. However, if you start doing these things early with your dog,
it's preventative stuff.
Yeah, you're way less likely to have some of those resource guarding tendencies, because there's a clear understanding. Your puppy knows that they're going to get the food, and it's coming directly from you, and that they have to use some of that emotion. Those emotional control exercises are so good for
They're
stuff
invaluable.
like that. Your puppy will choose to sit back. Your puppy will choose to wait for you to say yes, and then reward them. And that's an underlying issue with some of that resource guarding, is that your puppy or dog or whatever thinks that bone or that food or whatever is theirs, and they need to guard it. So these exercises really show them that food or whatever, the resource, is coming from you. And I think that's a really important point. So we're not going to talk about that tonight, but if you are doing these exercises with your puppy, you're much less likely to run into something like that. I want to say hello to Crystal the Animal Lover and Samantha Plays. Good to see you guys again.
My water went down the wrong pipe.
Uh-oh. Yeah, you need to get a sippy cup, I think.
I
For
do
you
have
guys
a
that are
sippy
just
cup.
joining, and I know people that have been here for the whole stream, check this shirt out. Pretty nice, right? I love this shirt.
Better.
On that note, I think we've gone over some of the really important things for you guys to know as you're introducing your new puppy to your household and working with those young dogs. Because again, these exercises, you can do this with any age of dog. You just saw Kale do this with Grand Slam. And how old's Slammy now?
He is 6.
Yeah, like these skills and exercises are valuable for dogs of any age. I often talk about Deegan, my black lab. I had to start from the beginning with her when she was 2, because I didn't know anything about dog training, and so I had to restart a lot of her learning exercises. And I'll tell you, she very quickly learned those games where she shows some emotional control, where she shows some restraint. Those were really helpful for her. The other thing that I really liked, if you have a dog who's a little bit older and you're thinking, geez, I probably should have crate trained my dog, or they don't really like going into their crate, start feeding them in their crate, just like Kale was talking about a couple of minutes ago, and they'll very quickly learn that that's their place, that there's tons of value that comes from going into their crate. So, this isn't just reserved for you guys who are puppy owners. If you have a dog that's a little bit older, these things are perfect for you as well. Crystal the Animal, I got to post this one. Crystal the Animal Lover says, great shirt, Ken. Thanks, Crystal. I do appreciate it. I also think it's a great shirt. And if you had seen the beginning of the stream, you would have seen how excited Kale got about this shirt. And someone mentioned in the chat, I can't remember who it was, that I think she's convinced that the train station is a great idea, because now I can wear the shirt and say, all aboard the training train. And it's always fun for me to do that.
He's a crazy person.
Slam's not sure.
Slammy.
But I want to thank you guys for joining us. If this is your first time on the channel and you consider your dog a member of the family, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we publish videos every single week to help you to have a well-behaved four-legged family member. And we love hanging out with you on these Thursday night live streams. Now, next week, we're going to be doing a unique live stream next week.
A very unique
live
stream.
That you're not going to want to miss. So make sure you check that out. And we're pretty excited about it. I see a couple of questions coming in here. Let's touch base with this really quickly because I've got another thing to say here. So, Betty Ann Major, how much time should I spend with my 17-week-old schnoodle training? Half an hour, 1 hour per day? I'm new to your feed. We talk about this a lot. You should be breaking that up into as many small, really short training sessions as you can throughout the day. It does a couple of things. It teaches you that your puppy or your dog that training isn't a scheduled, regimented event. So you can, at any point in the day, you might be working on something. It also keeps your motivation high, and it keeps your puppy's motivation really high. So that's really what you want. You want to focus on motivation and keeping them engaged and having training be fun for both of you guys, whether it's the puppy or yourself.
Yeah, puppies don't have a very long attention span to begin with either. So, short periods of time, many times throughout the day. And, the training that we do is really based on, teaching your dog to be a good listener and to be a better part of your family. So a lot of the exercises that we train in, our in-house classes or in our online My Dog Can classes are based on things that you could easily work into an everyday routine with your dog to make your dog more manageable. And that's really what we believe to be the best way to train a dog, is to sort of integrate some of the skills and exercises and games and whatever we have into, your morning routine, or, when you come home from work, or when you go for a walk, or when you go to the park. There's certain things that are good to practice. So, what we don't want you to do is spend an hour a day training the dog, and then for the other 23 hours of the day, change your expectations or not follow through. So this is a dog is a full-time job for sure. They're always learning. So that's really what we would suggest that you do, is small portions many times throughout the day, and integrate your training into everyday life.
Crystal the Animal Lover says you should sell the shirts. Crystal, I totally agree with you. And in fact, I think I can get the link where I created this. I'm going to put this in the replay. And if you'd like to check it out, you can get yourself a All Aboard the Training Train t-shirt. And if anybody here
I want one with a different neck.
Is watching, I think I can get that. I'm not sure. I'll find out for sure. But I will definitely put that in the description below. And I think I need to order Kayla's shirt, because I don't know about you guys, but it looks like she's excited about this shirt.
Well,
I did create this. Took me a long time because I am not like a graphic designer by any means. And I can't see the color blue very well, so I'm not totally sure how, if it's funny colored. However, I think it turned out pretty well. A couple quick questions. Samantha Plays, do you have any dog food suggestions? I would talk to we don't have any specific dog food suggestions at this point. I think we've tried a bunch of different foods. Pay close attention to your dog's weight. Actually, talk about that for a second, about feeding and how closely you need to pay attention to your dog's weight.
Yeah, you need to be very aware of how much you're feeding your dog, and using the back of the bag is not always a good way to measure your dog's weight, or to figure out how much you should be feeding your dog. What you need to figure out is what your dog's ideal weight should be, and your dog may or may not be at their ideal weight right now.
Sure.
So if they are, then, the way we determine how much to feed our dogs is we do what I like to call the rib check. And I do it probably every other day, every third day. I mean, my hands are on my dogs all of the time anyways, but I'm constantly feeling their sides, feeling their waist, and touching them. And, if I cannot easily feel their ribs, then they're carrying too much weight. So I'll adjust their food accordingly. And if I think that they're getting a little too thin, or if I'm doing a ton of competitions, or we're doing a ton of hiking and swimming, then we'll bump our dog's food up a little bit. There's lots of times where I'll say, Ken, we need to up this dog's food and down this dog's food. And I may or may not have a whiteboard attached to the wall over there that has specific instructions.
I think that's a really important thing that you guys at home can keep in mind, and also do. If you have multiple family members feeding your dog, it's not a bad idea to keep track of who's feeding what, how much they're getting. Yeah. Because,
use actual measuring cups. Don't just randomly put food in a bowl. You should be watching that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think Deegan, our black lab, I had another lab years and years ago who gained a lot of weight very quickly. I thought she was a relatively good weight, but she ended up blowing out both of her knees. Now Deegan she's 14.
Almost,
14?
yeah, 14.
She's 14 now, and she is athletic. She runs with all the other dogs.
So healthy for her age.
Yeah, she's done all kinds of stuff, played agility and done flyball.
Her hips are still good.
They're still great because we were very closely manage her weight and make sure that she doesn't get overweight because we don't want her to have to carry around all that extra work. I wanted to mention Philip Boyd. I'm just tons of great comments from you today, Philip. I love how the dog's hat is backwards on the shirt. Yeah, it took me a little while to figure out how to turn the hat around because in the initial picture it was the other way. But thanks, Philip. I took a lot of time to try to make that look right, and I appreciate somebody noticing. The Doberman guy mentions, I use the rib check method, but in a different way. But it depends on the breed. In my case, it should be felt but not seen. That's exactly what Kale's saying.
I have my dogs a bit thinner, but I also have my dogs compete at a very, very, very high level in agility, and they can't be carrying any extra weight, otherwise they could be injured or they run slower. So like if you looked at Beeline, you probably could see the outline of her ribs pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm just thinking now the Doberman guy has Dobermans.
They're very healthy. Yeah.
So it's a short-haired dog. I mean, you don't want to be seeing the
obviously
ribs.
You don't want them to look biafran or like not fed. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But lots of times people will say, and I'm not saying this is what we're doing, but lots of people say, "Oh, he's really muscled," and then the muscle is not muscle; it's fat. So you just have to do what's comfortable for you and what's good for the dog and what's healthy for the dog.
Yeah, for sure. That's obviously the of utmost importance.
Yeah.
Kazi mentions, you want one, Kale, and she's probably talking about the shirt because that's all we're talking about now. We just shifted gears entirely. And that's when I know it's time to end the stream. I want to thank you guys for joining us. We really enjoy doing these train station training, live experiences with you. We love being able to, help you guys out. We love answering the questions that you have. And sometimes you come up with some really great questions that we hadn't even thought of. So we really appreciate it. We get lots of students in our classes asking us questions, and we think, that'd be great for the train station, or that would be a great. I
already have another good idea for the question I got today.
Yeah. So or videos or content for our videos. So if you are watching this in the replay, or even when we end the stream now, and you have something that you'd like us to talk about or you'd like to see on the channel, make sure you leave it in the comments below. And we are really active in those comments. So any questions you have, let us know. On that note, I want to thank you guys for watching us. Another great episode of the train station.
Oh my God, you are out of control with that horn today.
Uniforms. It's just a whistle. It's not a horn.
I hope I never get behind a train to drive it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like blowing a horn instead of a whistle.
Whistling away. Thank you for watching. We do appreciate every one of our viewers, and thanks guys for joining in on the conversation. On that note, I'm Ken.
I'm Kel.
Happy training. Bye for now.